Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansu, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And folks, we got a show here today that's going to stir up a lot of conversation, and I'm all here for it. But before we even get into that, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Let's get into this topic here. So, as you guys know, the Olympics is over. The USA was able to win the Olympic gold versus France in a crazy game where Stephen Curry put on an all-time performance, right? It was absolutely incredible, right? With some of the shots that he was hitting towards the end of the game, basically holding or keeping France at bay from being able to tie the game and possibly take the lead. Stephen Curry was an integral part, of USA capturing the gold medal. So in the aftermath of that game, various people in media were reacting to it. People in the independent space, people in big media and all of that. But one of the shows that reacted to it, I believe it was yesterday, has stirred up quite a bit of controversy. It was during a taping of Get Up in the morning. And on the panel, as far as I can remember, or who was on the show rather, I can remember was Kendrick Perkins and Mike Greenberg, right? You know Mike Greenberg, he's always on ESPN, been there for years. So essentially what happened was Mike Greenberg was setting up the question for Kendrick Perkins to kind of answer what he thought about Stephen Curry's performance and where he thinks this kind of pushed Stephen Curry in terms of his NBA career. But before he got to that, while he was setting up the question, he went on to say something that has a lot of people in the NBA community basically scratching our heads like, wait a minute, did Mike Greenberg just say this? Well, essentially what happened was, as he was setting up the question for Kendrick Perkins, he went out there and said, I think in the, 30 years or 40 years, whatever it is, he's been watching the NBA, or 20, 30 years, he's been following the NBA. That was the most historic moment in terms of shots that he has ever seen since he was covering the NBA. And a lot of us were like, Scooby, what? Like, what? What did he just say? So for those of you who didn't hear what Mike Greenberg had to say about Stephen Curry's performance and where he feels it ranks in the history of NBA, I want to play it for you now. I want you guys to listen to it in its entirety, and then I want to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to Mike Greenberg here.
But for the guys who have titles, for someone like Steph, who this is the only thing missing from his resume, to have that moment, I believe it goes at the top of the list of his greatest moments, and I believe it is the most memorable sequence I've seen in basketball in my 50 years watching the sport. What do you think, Big Perk?
Hey, Greeny, when was the last time I ever told you I was proud of you? Okay, that list was perfection. That looked like one of my lists. I mean, from top to bottom. But when it comes down to Steph, hey, look, he may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. In those last two games, especially the one to seal it all against France, listen, that's Steph Curry at his finest. And look, people could argue on another day what position he will go down as. I still have him as the greatest point guard ever, right? Greatest point guard ever. I understand he changed the game and how the game is played with him being the greatest shooter of all time. But the fact that he had LeBron James and Steph Curry wide open on the opposite wing and shot that basketball over two defenders to seal the deal with his classic epic night-night go-to-sleep type thing. Hey, look, I tell you this, Greeny, you're right. That was one of Steph Curry's greatest moments of his NBA career.
Well, let's face it, in the entire history of the sport, he's the only person for whom that was a good shot, right? He's literally the only person that has ever lived for whom that was a good offensive sequence. Anyone else takes that shot, we are basically, we're revoking their citizenship, right, for taking that shot at the end of an Olympic game. For Steph, that's a good look. Because if he is within 50 feet of the basket, he is a threat. And again, D. Wood, I would suggest that the circumstances were that meaningful because the Olympic gold didn't used to matter when it was so easy, when it was so obvious, such a foregone conclusion that we should have it. That is no longer the case. Serbia absolutely could have beaten us. They played us dead even. France absolutely could have beaten us. They had guys who played out of their minds because of the circumstances. That game was not, and anyone who watched it, you don't need me to tell you this, was not a foregone conclusion. The consequences of losing are epic. They are enormous. And Steph Curry refused to let it happen.
Yeah.
D. Wood, your thoughts?
So you heard what Mike Greenberg had to say there, right? when he said that, I believe it was yesterday, I don't know what caused us not to actually put out a show today, but today, and I got to give credit where it's due, I came across a segment from Sports and Fitness Rants where he was talking about that. I was like, man, this is a good point. This is a good point. Let me go ahead and talk about this as well. I have no problem giving credit whenever I get inspiration from various channels. It happens all the time. Sports and Fitness Rants is one person. Too Raw for Sports. He's definitely somebody else that these guys inspire me in terms of the topic, some of the things that they say, how they say it, especially with Sports and Fitness Rants. He says something about me having LeBron in my top 5, and he began to say some things that really had to make me start thinking about, why I had LeBron in my top 5, and he brought up some fantastic points that made me reevaluate my position on that. So these guys put out some good content, thoughtful content as well. Anyway, so I began to think about it, and I said, you know what? Let's try to make this a little bit scientific. So before producing this show, we actually put up a poll on our channel to get a sense of what the audience thinks about all of this. So I want to show you the poll. We essentially asked the question about an hour or so ago. Please make sure you guys go ahead and vote and leave a comment because we appreciate your feedback. But anyway, the question was, what's the greatest shot in NBA history? And in about an hour of the poll being out, we have about 1,700 voters. By the time the show comes out, it should be more than that. So we put up 5 options. YouTube only allows you to put up 5 options. So first option was Jordan Game 6 versus the Jazz NBA Finals. We have Kyrie Irving Game 7, 2016 versus the Warriors NBA Finals. We have Magic Johnson, Sky Hook 87 versus the Celtics NBA Finals. Ray Allen shot Game 6, 2013 versus Spurs NBA Finals. And we have Jordan Game 1 buzzer beater versus the Jazz 1997 NBA Finals. Now, if you notice something about this particular poll has everything to do with finals games because that's the biggest stage. There have been some other big shots that have been made throughout the playoffs, various buzzer beaters. Kobe hit one, LeBron hit a few, Kawhi Leonard hit another one, Damian Lillard hit another one. We decided to keep those out because they were not in the NBA Finals. So all of these shots are in the NBA Finals. Just wanted to mention that. So out of the 1,700 voters, 59% of them voted for Michael Jordan's shot versus the Jazz in the NBA Finals in Game 6. 14% voted for Kyrie Irving's shot in Game 7 to win the championship against the Golden State Warriors. We have Ray Allen's shot. They got 19%. Magic Johnson Sky Hook versus in 87 versus the Celtics. I got 5%. And Jordan game one buzzer beater versus the Jazz in 1997. Right. So as I was going through the comments of what people were saying, a lot of people out there were basically saying 2 things. They were saying that it should be Ray Allen shot, which was a big one, and it should be Kyrie Irving shot, right? Because after that, meaning if you miss those shots, series is over. You lose, right? In the case of Ray Allen, they would have lost. In the case of Kyrie, Game 7 shot, if they miss that shot, they lose to the Warriors, right? And I think those are good points. I think those are fair points. The reason I think that Jordan is receiving the majority of the votes, regardless of the fact that, okay, Michael Jordan is viewed as the greatest player of all time, I think the reason people are voting for Jordan is because of what was at stake, right? Jordan had announced that was going to be his last year in the NBA. He was going to be retiring. He was coming off the heels of winning 2 championships back-to-back, right? 2 championships. And now he was in a situation in which the world knew that this iteration of the Chicago Bulls with Phil Jackson, Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, Steve Kerr, and all these guys, this was it. So after this year, we will never see Michael Jordan ever again play basketball. And at that point, he was already considered to be the greatest basketball player ever. Ever. You have a scenario in which that year, it was MJ's last season. That year, he led the league in scoring. He made the all-first defensive team. And he was in the playoffs in quest of his 6th ring. This sixth ring would also separate him from players like Magic Johnson, who he was tied with at the time with 5 rings. And Jordan goes into that game 6, knowing that Scottie Pippen was dealing with a significant injury. He was dealing with a back injury. None of those players I just mentioned in terms of the top dogs in either of those series, the Celtics, the Cavs Warriors series, nor the Heat Spurs series, all of the key players were healthy and available. In the case of the Chicago Bulls, if they lost that game, chances are they could have gone on to lose game 7. Why? Because Scottie Pippen couldn't even play. He couldn't even run up the floor. So it was carpe diem. Jordan had to seize the moment. And what people don't realize is not only is that the greatest shot in NBA history, it's the greatest sequence in NBA history. Because in that particular moment, Jordan exhibited his brilliance of what makes him who he is. His determination, his grit, his no give up attitude, and the fact that he's an assassin. Jordan, in that sequence, stripped Karl Malone, coming from the weak side, stripped him, comes up the court. The Bulls elect not to call a timeout so the Jazz will set their defense. Jordan times the shot, times it. Then he goes to make a move, crosses over, and pulls up to shoot his iconic jump shot. The man hit the jump shot with his iconic follow through, not only to win the NBA championship against a team they had beaten the year prior, but also to go out with his career because he wasn't coming back after that. Kyrie, Ray Allen, all of those guys, they missed those shots. They can come back the next year. Jordan isn't coming back the next year. It's over. And for him to hit that shot in that moment, and that's how he closed out his NBA basketball career. Kobe closed out on 60. Jordan closed out in a game-winning, at the time at least, in a game-winning shot to win his 6th championship. I think the voters got it right. It was Michael Jordan, and it's not even close. It's not even close. Because one person was concluding their career. All those other guys were still going. So to me, look, I think the voters got it right. In terms of Mike Greenberg, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. He became a prisoner of the moment. I don't know what the hell he was talking about, and a lot of people are basically saying the same thing. So the question to the audience is the following. What do you think is the greatest moment in terms of a shot in the history of the NBA? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments. We catch you on the next show. Peace.